Thank you guys, Chad. Thank you, Russ, for coming on. I do appreciate talking with my peers, really strong black men. I think that's important. And again, like I said before I started recording, I don't think enough black youth, learn how to communicate with each other. Where do you see that going as far as how we interact with them or how they interact with us? Chad, what do you think?
I think over the generations we've lost that piece of how to communicate a little bit. Like you said, the younger generation kind of talks to each other or talks at each other. And we, as the older generation, talk to listen and hear and comprehend and then kind of solve those problems. I think they haven't really gotten back to those old communication vibes of how to understand communication between each other.
Well, go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Chad, on that. I think we as like older males, black males, I think we missed that. We dropped the boat a little bit in terms of we dropped the ball in terms of like making ourselves available to have conversation with the younger people. For some reason, we just dropped that ball. But I think we had that opportunity. We're alive now, so we have that opportunity to just reach out to younger people and have a conversation, have dialogue with younger people.
I feel like, me personally, as much as the littlest or as most I can do, I still feel like I'm not doing enough, and I feel sad by that. Do you guys go through that too?
Yeah, I feel that too. I mean, you get so busy with your everyday routine, and at my gym, I have contact with quite a few youth, and even then, you don't really get into some of those personal, intimate conversations. It's just day to day, passing conversations, so on and so forth. But I think we have time to do so much more and dig in deeper, so they understand that we as men, have those type of issues we've went through and can play that as a role model for them.
The one thing I've noticed this also through the music era or through the entertainment is that black men are not teaching black boys how to be black men with women.
Yeah.
It's gotten nuts.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, these kids are just going by what they've been seeing. They haven't seen probably that example on how to treat a black woman and, how to treat themselves. So I think a lot of times you find that, you're only gonna do how what you see out there. So I think we just have to have a better representation of us communicating with moms, communicating with aunts, uncles, the whole nine, just having that communication and give them a visual image on how a successful situation would be like by having a communication with those people. Just give them the image of that.
Because having daughters, and I know all three of us have daughters.
Yes.
And some of the things that my daughters are going through with things that they've gone through with, it seems like there's a neglect there that they've just never gotten. And that bothers not my daughters, but the men they've picked.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just it. So I look at myself, I go, well, Paul, you wasn't a damn prize when you were, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you had your own difficulties and issues and situations. So what makes you, but I think we're not, like you said, Russ, we're not passing it down at all.
Yeah, and I feel like as men, we're like, especially when you have daughters, you're like that first line of defense. The daughters that you have, like the daughters that I have, I'm the first person they're gonna fall in love with, as a male. So for me, my job was, I'm currently divorced now, but I made it a point for me to make sure that my daughters saw that I was affectionate to their mom, never mistreated her. So I'm hoping that'll benefit them in the long run when they have relationships.
Yeah.
Everyone popped on. I want to introduce Mr. Webb to everyone. So say hello to Mr. Wesley Webb.
Hey, Wesley.
Hello, brothers. How you doing?
Good.
The conversation we're talking about is we've dropped the ball on teaching young black men how to be proper black boys to be black men, and how having daughters and seeing the relationship that there's a failure there that we've missed as adult black men.
Okay, we're good.
Are you looking for me to respond?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's the question one more time, please? I'm sorry.
I think we dropped the ball teaching young black men to be better men.
Yeah. That is to a certain extent, I believe that to be true, but the thing is, there's no time like the present to kind of start to go ahead and do a reset on those type of things. And, our motto, I'm sorry, hold on guys, getting some background noise. Like our motto is, what they see is what they'll be. So, it's our intent to not only, through mentoring, provide that example, but also show them all at the same time. And you have to just work it that way. And sometimes it takes only one person. And then from that one person, it'll continue to build upon that type of thing. And because these kids, they can smell you're not being sincere. Yeah. And the thing is, it's most important is it's just to live that example, with them. And not everyone, sometimes it's cut from that same cloth as far as philosophy-wise and everything. And thankfully, like for what the 100's been doing is that, we have a uniform training format. And, our operation is national in scope. So everything that we're doing, we're always talking about it. So in some type of ways, we are actually kind of working in that same vein. So no matter where you would go in the country, if you're part of that organization and you're dealing with those kids, we're all on the same playbook, in that aspect.
Hey, Wesley, you want to introduce what the program you're involved in, the 100 Black Men, because Chad in North Dakota and then in Russ in New York, I know the 100 Black Men have a chapter in New York too.
Yes, they do. Okay. That's where they were actually founded in.
He's the head director here in Maryland there he's back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, they were actually founded in New York in 1963, and from there, they had branched out to Jersey and then to Atlanta and so on under that same philosophy where you had a lot of good brothers who were looking to do things in their community, and just by giving back because, of course, back in the 60s, things were kind of rough in a way for Black men. Not to say that it hasn't changed the whole 100%, that much, but we're doing better than we were in the 60s. But but the thing is, it's just like there seems like to be some parallel issues that are going on that were happening there in the 60s that are happening right now. And that it's just kind of discerning in that aspect because we have to talk with our young guys about this, and they're kind of looking at this situation in a way that, we didn't think that we would have to go back and address once again. But the stuff is real in that aspect, So,
and that's what made.
But as far as
that's what made me think of this format is so people are so online and social networking that I don't think enough young Black people see Black men communicate and conversate. So that's what gave me this idea of this format. And because this shooting with, the last shooting we had with the young man jogging, it doesn't matter with this shooting, the other shootings, we are not having conversations with young Black men to figure out how they're feeling through all this, like you said, Wesley.
Yeah. And through our program, which is Saturday Leadership Academy, those are the type of discussions that we do have. I understand that, some of these guys will be feeling themselves and the whole entire bit talking about what they're going to do and what all this, they would not let this happen and so on. And we have to give them that reality check. I have one of the members of my chapter who's actually a judge, who works in Prince George's County, and I had him come in and talk to the guys about how things would actually operate within the criminal justice system, and and what would happen if they would ever have to come before him. And like he would talk about, it pains him because he has no choice. He has to follow the law.
Right.
No matter how he may be looking at them, and this was talking about, he may have kids their age and this type of thing, and it's just hard. So in that aspect, he's giving his time back through the organization to give them the real deal as far as what happens in that courtroom. Also, we have some who work in youth corrections where they talk about what happens once you're on the inside. Wow. These type of things. And so this way, we're giving them, a pretty good crystal clear idea of what way not to go, and to talk about all the things that we would like we're looking to do to try to help them out so that they don't have to go that direction.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of the youth that we're dealing with, of course, they come from single family households, and their mothers may be working, or their friends may become their social network that may be getting them in trouble. So a lot of the times, all the positive influences that we are giving to them, we have to find ways to reinforce it outside of the Saturday Leadership Academy.
Hey, Wes, I had a question for you. Do you find like these youth that you're working with, are they resistant of the help, or are they pretty, resolute with hearing what you have to say?
Well, yes, they are, but it takes a little bit of time. When they're coming in, because it's just like one of these type of things. They're kind of assessing, what's going on. They're filling you out. Is this dude for real? This type of thing. So, and once they figure it out, hey, yeah, he's real. They're really here to help us out, and yada yada. Then they start to become a little bit more open, more receptive. Because one of the things that we do, is we don't. Once their parents drop them off at the guardians, that we have them leave in a sense. Because a lot of the times, this is all about trust.
Right.
This is all about trust. We do not want the mothers there. We don't want their fathers there or whatever. Because this is where real talk is going on. And you have these group of boys, and they become like their own support network. And they can talk to one another about things that's been going on, where one kid might have experienced something and maybe was having a hard time, where another one maybe had the same issue but worked through it. And they start discussing their own ideas and these type of things. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a very much holistic support type group for them. And, they really start to really enjoy, coming to it. And also we look to expose them to certain things, which they may not normally have an opportunity to do. Like we took to the kids to the museums, like in DC, the National Museum of American History, and we also took them to for music appreciation, which was the a jazz festival that we had with Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival that's hosted during the month of February. So we like to take them to things like that, things that they would not normally see, or have an opportunity to attend, from their neighborhoods in that aspect.
Do you guys think that this pandemic, this stay at home, this virus, this situation we're in, do you think it's isolated the Black youth, that they're going to come out even more isolated?
Ooh, man.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What's your shot? Because, if they don't have a younger, Black boys tend to form more groups than other minority groups or other groups. And like you said, Wes, that group sometimes influences them more negatively than positively. So after this stay at home, are they looking to take charge? It's because we all are looking for a direction to go. What's our new normal, right? After this, what do we? There's things we got to run and go get because we've lost so much. what do you think the youthful black boy is going to be like? I still don't have anywhere to go.
Well, I think that's economic based in that aspect because, you'll find the kids a lot of the time they would be at home just playing on their Xbox, just kind of hanging inside the house anyway. But if you don't have a computer or a smartphone or something, sure, you're going to probably come out a little bit more isolated because as of right now, as you see, more people are having more Zoom meetings or group chats and these type of things. And if they don't have that type of outlet, I think, yes, they will come out a little bit more isolated in that aspect.
Yeah.
Your gym, Chad, do you have like group meetings at your gym? Because you have a fitness center, and like, do you guys just have like a powwow chat with the kids that come into your fitness center?
The thing that happened with my gym, it is more of a community center feeling as well, because we'll have kids come in there and then all of a sudden just start talking to you about, racial things that go on, relationships, and they confide in Tracy and I and some of those things that they wouldn't even talk to their parents or friends with. So it's a very special environment that's kind of created. So we've gotten the opportunity to really learn about some of the kids and the youth that have come in there because they see us as a confiding sounding board and just listening. So that's been one of the great things about our gym is getting to know those kids and being able to mentor and influence them if they have problems or help them come up with solutions.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Dr. Paul, just to answer your question, though, too, I think with today's youth, I think mental health has to be addressed going forward. I think a lot of times, we're dealing with this coronavirus. We're not really talking to each other about that. Now you see the shooting of that young man in Georgia and the young lady in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Aspect has to be looked at, especially with our black youth. And, that has to be looked at and addressed going forward. Because there's a lot of trauma that's going around, and from the coronavirus and everything else. So, yeah, mental health has to be addressed for today's youth.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and there's a lot of trauma, and I think that's why I started my little thing in the morning, that healthy mind thing. It's just that, but after this, trauma affects so many people, but so many people have a hard time expressing their trauma. Like, even if you ask them, "Are you okay?" they may not say nothing. And and I don't know, and that's a wall I don't know how to always get over. I don't know how to get over that wall. Like, you could say, "I'm here for you. I'm here to talk to you," but then sometimes you know that they're watching you. You know what I mean? And they know they're looking at you. They're like, "Yeah, I know he asked me," but we have to be around them for them to watch us. And I know I don't get enough opportunity to just be around you instead of like in an area for them to watch me. And I think that's where I feel like I dropped the ball. Like, I don't know how to be around them, not for them to be around me. You know what I mean? Like your program, Wes, like they come through the program. But is there a way that we can go to them so they can watch us?
I would think there is a way, and the way is I would say engage them in school. Where they're at,
right?
In that aspect. One of the things is, which we had started was a suspension intervention program, where we started working with one particular school in Baltimore where there seemed like young black males were being suspended at a higher rate than need be. So if there was going to be some type of suspension, rather than suspend them from school, we have them become a part of the Saturday Leadership Academy. And, we met with the school officials, and that's keeping them in school. But in that way, also, they gave us an opportunity to have an in with the school so we can go there and actually just see how the students are actually being, in that environment and all. And so I think it works that way, where they will actually see us doing something in a very public forum versus just coming into to the Saturday Leadership Academy itself. And also gives us an opportunity to show the parents, that we are sincere about, what we're looking to do, for their young men in that aspect.
I know I have worked with an after-school program, and most of the kids that were in the program, so the after-school program, were mostly Black kids. And that was my opportunity to be with them. And then, again, like you said, Chad, our lives gets in the way, and then all of a sudden it removed me from that after-school program because I was doing other things, and I that's what made me feel like, man, how can I do both? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one thing that we talk about it with the kids not being able to open up to us as men is we have to show them that we can be vulnerable too. So a lot of times they see us in an environment, they'll see me in the gym being, macho, manly, or whatever you want to call it. But they have to see you have that vulnerability so that they're able to be trusting and open up too. So a lot of times if they see me talking to Tracy or little kids or things like that, they'll see a different side of me that they start to get that form of trust and say, Chad's not just always hype and in this mode or that mode. They see you as comforting and somewhere to go to for help. So that vulnerability aspect to help them open up is a big piece because a lot of kids, they don't want to open up, and us, when we grew up, we wanted to be tough, macho, and really didn't want to share our feelings. And it took a while for us to review those things and figure out how to open up and be open to our wives and our kids and those things from the experiences we had. So we got to teach them how to be vulnerable, to trust us.
Chad, you make an excellent point about vulnerability because I had that conversation with my daughter. My daughter's 15 years old, and I shared with her, I'm divorced from the mom, and my daughters live in Louisiana, I live here in New York. But I shared with my youngest daughter, I told her, I said, hey, look, I suffer from anxiety throughout this whole process of this coronavirus, me not being able to be with you guys. But I put that out there, being vulnerable. And I think it worked for me because she saw how I was vulnerable, suffering from anxiety. She sometimes suffers from anxiety as well. So I think when you have that vulnerability, that helps out in the process. So that's a great point that you make there, Chad.
Yeah.
I also is a great point because, even when I'm doing like some of my little podcasts, whatever, I talk about the difficulties I had of almost committing suicide at a time in my life, or feeling lonely and despaired in my life, and working my way through that never gets discussed on social media, because social media is all about the bravado of a male, like what I got and doing you're doing all always talking about the flash gold and like you can have this so Black boys see that, they're like, that's what I want, but they what they don't see is the men talking about, I get sad, I get depressed, and there's ways that we can work through that. Yeah.
And I'm sorry about that, Wes, but it goes back to what I talked about earlier about being that example. So like how we missed the boat on that, whereas we should have been telling them that, hey, look, it's not okay to have a money phone, putting that on Instagram or Facebook. These aren't behaviors that you should be doing. So, but we now have that opportunity now, since we're here, to go back and help out those youths. Just show that example, like Wes, like you talked about, just being that example for them to live by.
And it's also about imagery, because Black men have been stepping up for quite a bit as far as being great fathers, to their children and the whole entire bit. But you don't see it, sometimes. So that has to be more visible. That needs to be brought out more in that aspect, how that's all being done. And, because, once young men start seeing that, and as they start to formulate their own ideas on what kind of man that they want to be and how they would like to raise their families, they'll have better images, to see that.
And I think, I mean, I was so blessed that, you guys are wanting to do this and have this forum, because I want young black boys or even other men see that we can have a conversation about being vulnerable, about what we are going through and how we are going through it, and how we want to care and serve our communities and our families and our friends. It's just not talked about. You can search through medias, and it's like, when do black men have a forum? Black women have forums. They're a little bit catty sometimes, but they have the forums. But black men don't have what you call the relationship forum, right? You don't see black men talking about, man, I struggle with my relationship, and when I got divorced, and now I'm remarried. You don't hear those conversations, and I'm like, now it bothers me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because those conversations, they definitely matter. Our feelings, we don't get them out there as much, but, conversations like we're having today, it's going to matter. It's going to matter for people out there. Just hearing that, being that vehicle, being that example that we're showing today.
Because I know Chad, being in the sports world and being very talented in the sports world, you see a lot of kids, and you too, Russ, with the basketball, a lot of kids see, this is what I'm going to do with my life, and I'm going to make it there. And so many of the percentage never make it or never even get there. And they're like, what do I do now? And you're like, what do you mean, what are you going to do now? You better get to work,
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, Paul, because that's one of the things that I tell the kids is, kids these days, they find their professional athlete that they look up to, and they're like, I want to get there. But they don't understand what happens from the beginning to in between to get there. So you got to kind of tell them how that process of work and how that process of grind gets there, and what's the percentage of success in those athletic realms to get there. I think they're so hyped up by social media and technology that they don't understand how much work it takes to get to be a professional athlete.
Or how much it takes for you to stay married.
Right. Sure.
You know what I mean? You're going to go through your little wobbles, right? About that. I mean, just hell, this weekend, me and my wife, we're going through a thing, but we're talking about it. And there's an emotional mood there. It doesn't mean I don't love her. Doesn't mean we're not going to move through this. But there is some financial restrictions going on, and there's this feeling of it's tough, right? And so young men don't ever get to see that or hear that.
Yeah.
True.
And it's all about dealing with the transition, from I'm looking at a couple of things. Like you mentioned, Chad, about being a sports person, athletics. I remember somebody told me a long time ago, they think it's so easy for you, to be in the NBA. Like for me, when I played college basketball, you just transition to the NBA. Until I heard a stat, somebody told me you have a better chance of you have a better chance of being hit by lightning twice than being drafted in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So how do you go about making that transition from playing sports to a career choice? So I think a lot of times these people don't know about that and making the transition, and just don't know about the hard work that it takes, the luck that it takes, the dedication that you might have. But it's always important to transition to something else. Just give them the opportunity. They need to know about there's other opportunities out there for you, and how you deal with that transition, because you're going to have to transition. And that's what I find myself talking to a lot of people like that about that, handling that transition.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't wait I'm going to join the 100 Black Men group with Wesley here, because I want to be in front of youth. I want to be part of the community. I know there's other fraternities and other organizations, and there's tons. And sometimes we look at these other organizations or fraternities, and they're more about members than more about service. And I kind of, you step back, you're like, I thought you were about service to this. And they're like, no, we just want to wear our cool hats. You know what I mean? And not put in the work. And you're like, wait a minute, dude.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting that you say that. But I know that the fraternities, they have, and I even should say even sororities, they've been stepping up to try to do more in their communities because they do realize the disparity there and that they can go ahead and make a positive influence. And one of the things which I always say, to some of the guys, it doesn't matter where you come from. I don't care if you have a degree or not, because everybody can make a contribution in some type of way, an aspect. And so that's what we look to do, have them leave the ego at the door, because it's all about the kids, in this aspect.
Here's a crazy question, and this will be the last one if I let everybody go on there Saturday, is that
Sure.
I want to thank you again for coming on the forum. Do you think more black boys are going to go to jail than our era that went to jail? Yeah.
I think the way the system is set up, that might be the case.
Well, hold on. Before you finish, Russ, we know about the system more so now, right?
Right.
Even young black boys know of the system and how it's curtailed for them now. When we were growing up in the 70s or the 80s, we didn't know that they were actually had systems in place to really kind of drive you into prison, or you know what I mean? It's been outspoken now.
Right.
So you still think that's possible that young boys are going to go that way even more so than we?
Well, I think we can prevent that because by having reaching out like we're doing now, reaching out to these youths and explaining to them hey, look, this system is stacked against you. Me as a person who has lived a life, I see that. So to prevent you from doing that, I'm going to probably give you some conversation, give you some quote unquote game about how you can prevent this, and this by having dialogue and conversation. But it's going to be up to us to reach out to them, because they're not going to reach out to us. It's going to be us. It's going to have giving us the opportunity to reach out to them to explain how the cards are stacked against you. They know this, but hearing it from somebody who's possibly been through it, that might make a difference. So we have an opportunity to help them in this matter.
Right. And when they do stumble, we'd be there to help pick them up. Yeah. Do not leave them out there to hang to dry. Those type of things, and that's what we're looking to do, to put those type of structures in place.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, Chad?
I think that's exactly on point. We have to make sure that we give them the information that we've dealt with to help them not make the same mistakes. But in our era today, there's a lot of distractions. You got the social media, there's different drugs on the street. There's so much different stuff that they're facing. So they're way up against more stuff than we had before. So it's eminent that we need to step in and show them how we dealt with those distractions the best we could when we were younger to help them get through this period. Otherwise, it's going to be tough for a lot of men.
Yeah. And you know what, too, like you said, too, Wes, a lot of youth out there, they smell sincerity. They also smell fear as well. So if you're not sincere and if you're fearful about talking to them, they'll be resistant to your help. So I think it's all about the sincerity aspect of it going forward when we're addressing our youth.
Yeah, I think, Wes, like you said, when you develop that relationship with that school, I think maybe some of us who want to do more mentoring, I know, Chad, you have that availability down where you are to be associated with a school and their sports teams and their athletic teams. But I think, in New York and Brooklyn, you're right, and then where I'm at in Maryland here, I think I should start reaching at more schools to see how can I mentor these kids, so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like what I do is, me as a transition coach, what I do is I mentor those student athletes when they're transitioning to high school to college or high school to careers. So I have like a mentorship in place to what I do with student athletes. So, but again, I should take it a step further, like you guys are talking about. Maybe I'm going to take it upon myself to join 100 Black Men here in New York. So it's just about the process, getting the information like you guys mentioned, and going from there, just being a resource for these young people.
Yeah. If you need a contact out there, I can go ahead and send you that information, okay? Because I'm in touch with a couple guys on a regular basis there.
Okay, that'd be great.
After this, I'm going to put our names in a group text, so I'll just shoot everyone the same text of the group text. So this way everyone has a number. The other thing I want to, what was I going to say? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I just had a small blank. Oh, with social media, if we do this more, I feel it's helpful to have a forum where we have a conversation, not directed so much at something, but have a conversation so young black men can see that we talk too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I thank you so much, everyone. Everyone enjoy your Saturdays. God bless. Please stay safe and be healthy and keep pushing forward. I know we'll come out of this new normal. I know we'll be better.
It was nice meeting everyone.
Yes,
Nice meeting you guys too.
Nice meeting you guys.
Have a great day. You bet.
Okay, now.